Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy healthy start to this nice Wednesday morning. It's another Wednesday morning. You know what's going to be happening today. It's event day, baby. It's event day, so it's time to be looking at the event tab on the Krown trading application, of which, what do you know? Mr. Jay Powell once again testifying in front of Congress, which yesterday, as we did find out, as was expected, dare I say, exactly as predicted. A bit of volatility around that event. Bitcoin testing both sides of the overall range, but not really having a resolution just yet. However, as we'll be looking at in a bit here, statistically speaking, today would be a great day for resolution. At least it's very, very likely that we do see it today, whether that be to the upside or the downside. In this case, short term favoring the downside, obviously, as long as Bitcoin continues to remain below the critical pivots that we've been looking at for the past, I think, like 2 to 3 days now. Anyways, other than that, I think it's time to get right on and down and dirty into this analysis, make this one nice and short and sweet, hopefully. And we're going to start it off right on over here with a study of the daily stochastic oscillator, of which anytime that we've seen the daily stochastic oscillator get down below about the 15 read, as you can see right here, lower is better, by the way, and then turn up from that 15 read, well, we've observed a nice relationship in the past 3 years, I should say, going all the way back to 2019 December is where I backed this one, or December, November, somewhere around there. Anyways, in this case, we do see that as of right now, Bitcoin will have a potential to turn to the upside later today upon closure if Bitcoin closes above 22,300. As of right now, still remains to the downside, obviously by about $300, but with the event looming overhead later today, $300 could very easily be reclaimed. However, I want to be very abundantly clear. As long as Bitcoin remains below that pivot, it is more likely to go to the downside, obviously. But let's look at what the statistics do show as far as if Bitcoin were to get a cross up from these regions. Again, that pivot at 22,300 by no later than end of day upon the daily closing basis. And over here on my little spreadsheets, we do see that there's been 14 iterations in the past, going back to 2019, so like almost 4 years now. Or it's really like 3.5 years, really. Of 14 iterations, 10 played out with a nice move to the upside. When I say a nice move to the upside, I'm talking about an average return, as you can see over here, of about 17.5%. I actually did not do the first standard deviation calculation just yet, but it'd basically be like 10, just kind of doing some bad mental math, it'd be like 10% all the way to about 24%. Obviously, I'll do the exact numbers a little bit later. But you can see in the grand scheme of things, yeah, there is a higher probability, obviously, for Bitcoin to have a nice move to the upside. If that were to happen, 71.5% strike rate, actually pretty damn good. Now, that also does come into collusion with the 4-hour time frame that we were looking at yesterday and the day prior. Still viable, still valid. It's just there's nothing really to update from there because Bitcoin hasn't, hasn't really broken anything of significance just yet. But going back into it over here, I just want to kind of highlight the last few examples that we've seen. The most recent example was actually a bit of an outlier. In fact, we saw it cross the upside right here. Bitcoin had a nice, how big was this move from closure to next high? Yeah, like 15% move to the upside over the next 6 days. These last two in November and December respectively were humongous moves. These were obviously outliers, or at least this one was a big outlier to the upside. But ultimately, my point is that we do see some variance within this. So that is why it is very important to be aware, of the spreads and what is statistically, most likely. So when we're talking about timing of this, on average from setup given to the next major high, about 16 days. Again, I didn't do an exact calculation right here, but if we were to make a first standard deviation calculation of that, that'd give us a spread between about 7 to 25 days. So if that were to happen, that would suggest that Bitcoin likely to play out, like a double-digit move, like a low, in like the low to mid-teens, basically, over the next, 1 to 3.5 weeks. So where would that put Bitcoin if this were to happen? So again, we're talking about a lot of ifs. I want to be, again, very fucking clear. As long as Bitcoin is below this pivot, downside is more likely. I mean, it is. Especially as long as Bitcoin's below $22,000. But if we were to see that close above today, well, what would about, let's just say like 15% on top of current price action look like? 15% would put Bitcoin back around the highs, 25,300. It would not suggest that we actually see a break of the current highs. just for what it's worth, just saying. But the longer that Bitcoin again goes sideways here without breaking down, the more and more likely that this is going to turn back up. Now again, just because it turns up doesn't mean it's like completely destined to have that move. 71.5%, while it is a rather high strike rate, it's not 100% strike rate. But other than that, it would be at least in my opinion of interest, as that would be a nice little kind of short-term, medium-term bear trap, if you would. But just before we kind of leave this point, I do want to address something. This was super interesting to me. Throughout the general upside move from 2020 all the way to April of 2021, there were no signals throughout that whole time. Just the daily stochastic did not get down to those levels, so you quite literally can't have a signal. But what does that mean about the current, about this current market over here? This pretty much only, you only see the daily stochastic get down to these levels during, heavy downside moves, heavy bear markets, essentially. So, getting into this region just by the nature of it is not really a good sign overall. Again, I maintain my position that while the macro lows may be very well in, Bitcoin can come down very easily. Let's say somewhere between 19 to 20,000 bucks, and two, we're Bitcoin, crypto, most markets are generally, in my opinion, in a transitory market. It's neither bull nor bear. It's sideways and boring the shit out of most people, I suspect. Anyways, so do keep that in mind. If Bitcoin were to reclaim that particular price, 22,300 by end of day, that's at the point where, hey, I'd say Bitcoin, high probability of a bear trap from this region, tentatively back up towards the prior highs over the next 1 to 3 weeks, let's say. Anyways, moving on here, I do want to put this, I do want to juxtapose this hand in hand with our HPDR indicator chart over here as well, simply because it does provide collusion with that story. We actually did see a closure ever so slightly below the blue 50% of historic returns range lows here on the daily. So what would this say? This would say that if Bitcoin's going to play out downside, it very likely starts to happen today. Why is that? Because volatility, as of right now, is actually going to be contracting. But if you expect this to come further down, in this case, to the next major level, which would be, first these prior lows right here, and after that point, probably down to like the mid $20,000 territory, we'd expect volatility to expand from here. So it's kind of like a two-pronged thing. Basically, if Bitcoin doesn't see continuation in the next couple of days, volatility will continue to contract. It will initiate a setup right here. The setup will be for upside, and that'll go hand in hand with a few other things. I suspect that the daily stochastic would also start to turn up as well, but if we do see volatility expansion, which again kind of has to happen today or tomorrow, otherwise that mean reversion will very likely naturally happen. Risk is to the downside, somewhere between about 21.3 to 21.5 for the next short-term bounce, and then that bounce probably does fail. It probably does come all the way down somewhere to the mid to low $20,000 territory, and then I'd like to come back to it after that. So what else? Do we have anything else to be speaking about on this particular video? Yes, we do. That's right. I've been saving the best for last. The most important portion of this analysis, which is this. It's the fucking moons, man. It's the moon time, not for price action, but for the witches, man. We haven't looked at this chart in a long time, but realistically, there just hasn't been too many new things to be speaking about, so I figured this would be a good time to bring this one back. And, for all of the nonsense that you could be looking at, on price action indicators and whatnot, funnily enough, looking at the moon phases, and please reserve judgment because I think this sounds as ridiculous as you probably do as well. Looking at the moon phases actually has been a decent source of edge. Basically, when you get the black moon over here, it's priced to the upside. When you get the white moon over here, it's priced to the downside. It's perfectly racially segregated. It's like a terrible thing to be saying on YouTube. No, my point is that if we were to backtest this, which I didn't do for this video because I didn't really, I don't want to put that much fucking weight. Like, it is pretty ridiculous, to be honest. But if you do backtest it, it does have a better than 70% strike rate at this moment. I think even last year it was like up above 80% for producing a move within that direction. The reason why I bring this one up right now is because, well, we're going to be getting a Bula move. Bula moon, the black moon. I think tonight. You can see actually the last moon over here did provides the impetus for some downside, as did this one. This one did not. This one certainly did worked. Kind of worked, not really, but kind of. No. Yes. No. Yes, kind of. It's not perfect, obviously, but on slow days like today, we can talk about silliness like this. But hey, for full disclosure, throughout the years of 2020 to 2022, the start of 2022, blindly trading this would have, it would have been pretty damn good. Just to give credit where credit is due. Like, statistics are statistics at the end of the day. Anyways, I think this is a good place for me to be leaving off before I say any more silliness. Hopefully the witches are still watching this content, because I respect you, and I'm actually curious, like, why, like, is there an explanation for why this does work, or doesn't work at all? And yeah, once again, would like to show some Bybit action. They got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders, with the link in the description below. They're actually be coming out with an even better promotion soon enough. And they will actually maintain that promotion, which is even fucking crazier. So exchanges are obviously doing well, because they really want you to trade there. But no, it is actually pretty damn good promotion. And other than that, I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.